friends, coming to you from the studio again today. Casey Ashmore talking about the community supervision process, or the adult probation process as it used to be known. So, as I've done for the last several months, we have acknowledged in particular the unending economic impact of the coronavirus pandemic, and it has been a hardship on so many friends, neighbors, countrymen, friends around the world who've been really unable in a lot of ways to provide for their families, that have had to seek new careers. I mean, they just can't do what they used to do to make money, and it's really been a hardship, and we are praying for some relief, especially for our friends, neighbors, colleagues, countrymen who are suffering because of this. So also, we are living up to the rhetoric of our revolution. I am convinced of that. We have got to come together, and we will come together as a nation. We are reeling from the death of Mr. Floyd, and we are questioning and opening dialogue on how we're going to do better. And I am reminded of the rhetoric of our revolution, that we are all created equal under God, and also the motto of our great nation, out of many, we are one. So, community supervision, and what happens after you have entered your plea of guilt and you are remanded to the custody of the community supervision officer in your county? Well, you're going to start reporting, and you're going to start those monthly fees that we talked about in video number 1. And you might be required to take a urinalysis or a hair follicle test, or a blood alcohol screening, a PETH, a PETH test, if you're an alcoholic. Or you might be required to put a deep lung device, a breathalyzer, on your car ignition or on your ankle, such that it can monitor how much alcohol is coming out of your pores. So these are all conditions of probation that can be imposed by the community supervision department. In addition to that, mistakes can be made, and you can overcome them, but I don't recommend it. Community supervision is a second chance on liberty, on freedom, on being outside, breathing free air, walking around in the sunshine, taking your kids to the park, going to work, providing for your family. So I don't recommend you mess it up. Don't trip on the 10, because probation is a long 10 yards to the end zone, to the completion of your criminal case, to the final disposition of your criminal case. Now, if you do trip on the turf, right, you hit the 2-yard line, you fumble the ball, you have a relapse, you go down, had clients do it. They have a bad day at work, things go real bad, and they make a decision, they backslide into their old ways. Had a client walked into a bar, had 2 Boilermakers, and went out and immediately regretted having had the drink, didn't get behind the wheel, called his probation officer, and we got in front of that problem. He had to agree to some sanctions, and sanctions are what we're going to talk about a little bit. The probation department doesn't want you back. They don't want to lock you up. They want you out working, providing for your family, because that means you're paying off the court-appointed fees. You're reimbursing the county for the supervision of you on probation. You're providing for your family, making sure your family doesn't have to go on any kind of social welfare. So they want you working. So if you get in front of your mistakes, like the example I gave a moment ago, the client who, had a terrible day at work and then decided to have a drink and then had 2 more, and then a 4th. That's a bad day. But that client made the right decision afterwards to admit it, get in front of it, and accept a sanction for it, thereby preserving their probation and keeping them out on the street. Instead of getting behind the wheel, blowing dirty into the interlock device, which wouldn't have started the car, or worse, tearing off the interlock device, starting the car, driving down the street under the influence. Could have been a terrible result. Make the right choice. I hope you're never faced with any of these decisions, but if you backslide, if you make a mistake, if you trip on the 3-yard line, fumble the ball, get in front of it. Your probation officer, for the most part, especially if you've done well and you're into your probation a little bit, your probation officer will work with you. And, the court and the probation department, they don't want you locked up. Like I said, they're going to talk about an appropriate sanction, and I'll get into more of that in the next video segment about what those sanctions look like, because they are lengthy, and then there's a process for when they're done with you, when they've tried sanctions and those don't work. And we're going to talk about that more in the next video series. But I hope none of you are ever faced with this, but it does come up from time to time. I try to make these video series as informational as possible. I believe that if you're spreading information, then you're chasing out the darkness. And please like, subscribe, and share. Leave me a question or comment on any video platform you may see this, and I'll get back to you in a direct message, a video follow-up, or both. Thanks again. God bless America.